Good day, everyone. Welcome to your Managerial Economics class. I'm Ms. Diana A. Peña, and I will be your facilitator. For Managerial Economics, it will be divided into 6 modules, and for the first module, we have 2 parts. In this video, I will be discussing about the first part. So let's start. Before anything else, let's have a review about economics. Now, what is economics? Economics is a science that deals with efficient and effective allocation of scarce resources to satisfy unlimited needs and wants. It is a science, a study of the behavior of humans, of individuals, of firms, of the nation, on how it wisely distributes its resources, because the resources are limited, but we tend to have so many needs and so many wants. No matter how rich you are, no matter how big the company is, there is always a limitation to its resources. And so it is only wise and proper to really evaluate how you will be able to allocate well these resources. That is economics. Now, even in your case, when you go to school, you're given an allowance. The moment you decide how you're going to spend your allowance because you have so many things that you want to buy, that is economics. When a company decides between investing on technology A and technology B and then trying to evaluate the benefits and costs between the two and only has to choose one, that is also economics. Okay? When the nation wants to address all of its the needs and wants of the people, but then it cannot do so, and so it has to have a budget hearing, that is also applying the principles of economics. What about management? Management is defined as all the activities and tasks undertaken to achieve goals. Remember that a company, a business, has its goals. In achieving its goals, it has to use resources. Now, companies, as I have said, no matter how big they are, they still have limitations in their resources. And so when they do planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, which are the 4 functions of management, they have to allocate well their resources. Kaya base, in their planning stage, they have already spent all of these resources. Or maybe they have properly allocated their resources in the planning, organizing, leading stages, but then they were not able to control well the spending or the use of these resources. Like households, businesses, no matter how big they are, again, still have limits in their resources. Therefore, managerial economics is a combination of the two. It is a science that deals with the efficient and effective use of scarce resources in a business setting. It is simply using the concepts of economics to manage a firm. Okay, so again, managerial economics is basically using what you know in economics and applying it when you make decisions for the business. Okay, so what are the resources that we are talking about? We have said that we have limited resources, but what are these resources? Are we talking about money? Because in a business setting, usually when we think of the things that we need to use to invest on, let's say, technologies or maybe a new branch or maybe buy uh, assets or inventory, we're talking about money. But in economics, resources do not refer to money. There are 4 types of resources. Okay? The first one is land, then we have labor, and then capital and entrepreneurship. Let's talk about land. Land refers to anything that you can see above and beneath land. So we're talking about trees, water, birds, or any animal, uh, even air, minerals, anything that you can find, or animals, anything that you can find above and beneath it. That is land. So basically, natural resources are land resources. What about capital? Okay, capital does not refer to money. Capital refers to usually long-term assets, or these are goods that are not natural, that are these are not natural resources. These are goods that are created by men, and they are used to produce other goods. Okay, So example would be the classroom, the buildings, or maybe the roads, or maybe the factory, the technology, the appliances that are being used to produce um, other goods and services. We're not talking about outputs, huh? Let's say, for example, if you're using the house as your shelter in your family, that's not capital in a business setting because you're not using it to produce other goods and services. Okay, you're using it as an output, as a product. Resources in this case are inputs. Okay, we're not talking about outputs, but when you invest on a building and then you use the building as an office or maybe a factory, and so therefore you are producing service or maybe products there, then that is capital. So capital are man-made goods and they are used to produce other goods and services. What about labor? Labor refers to to human resources. Okay, like for example, doctors, lawyers, carpenters, um, gardeners. So anything that has something to do with human resources, we call it labor resources. What about entrepreneurship? Now, entrepreneurship also involves human beings, okay? But in this case, entrepreneurs are people who pull together land, labor, and capital to create a business. So basically, entrepreneurs are people who start their own businesses or firms. Okay? And firms are made up of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Okay? So these are the four types of resources and these are all limited. You may basically argue that you know you might say that rocks are also resources, right? Because they are they are found on land, but we may not be able to count all of the rocks here on Earth, but we know that there is a limit to their number. So what if everybody starts demanding to get, up rocks and let's say later on ma-find out mo na nga rocks can cure something like a very dreadful disease. So everybody would want to have rocks. And that's when rocks will start becoming scarce. Just like water, 'di ba? Water can be found everywhere. 'Di ba? The earth, if you take a look at the earth, majority of the earth is made up of water. But how come we're paying for the water that we are drinking? 'Di ba? Why can't we just drink the water from our faucet? It's because we're looking for obviously clean water. So clean water is becoming scarce. So there could be many resources that we can see, okay, around us, but we know that there is a limit to their number, and there is a possibility that they will become scarce if the demand will outweigh the supply. If people will want to have a share of it, okay? Sige. And that's why we're studying economics because we want to properly allocate our resources para hindi kita makulangan later on so that we won't suffer the consequences. Observe your parents and guardians as they budget the resources of your house. Households, firms, and the government all have to make allocation decisions because resources, as I have said, are limited and the needs and the wants of people, of firms, of households can be unlimited. This is what economics is all about. Economics is a social science that studies the efficient and effective allocation of scarce resources to satisfy the unlimited needs and wants of the people. Economics is related to many disciplines. It can be related to marketing, to political science, to management, to finance, okay, even to agriculture. If you take a look at some of if you're taking like finance right now, if you take a look at some of your topics there, Some of the topics are also discussed in managerial economics. If you're taking up policy or marketing, like for example, in marketing, you'd study consumer behavior. We also study consumer behavior here in economics. In finance, if you study about time value of money, we also study time value of money here in economics. And if, of course, I've already mentioned that the connection between economics and management. That's why we have this managerial economics class. Pol sci also is very much related. So economics comes it cuts through across a lot of disciplines because it's very relatable. Okay? Every day in your life, maybe you are making an economic decision that you are not aware of. So let's start with economics and marketing. The economy has a direct impact on the way marketers push their products to consumers. Understanding the connection between marketing and economics can help business owners allocate their marketing resources and respond to changes in the economic climate. How about for economics and policy? Economics is guided by politics, and economics always takes the help of political science for securing right economic policies and goals. Thus, political science and economics are two highly and closely related interdependent social sciences. The two cannot be separated. Their boundaries overlap and cross. For economics and management, economic analysis is required for various concepts such as demand, profit, cost, and competition. Managerial economics is a discipline that combines economic theory with managerial practice. And finally, economics and finance. Finance is a specialized branch of economics concerned with the origination and management of money, credit, banking, and investment. Typical areas of study within finance are corporate finance, investments, financial institutions, and risk management. There are two major branches of economics. We have microeconomics and macroeconomics. So microeconomics studies the behavior of small institutions like individuals or the firms or corporations, organizations. So how they make decisions, how they allocate their resources, they're all under microeconomics. Now, how about for macroeconomics? Macroeconomics, on the other hand, studies the behavior of the nation as a whole. So we are concerned here with inflation, with the gross domestic product, gross national product, or maybe if there is a recession, economic growth, unemployment or employment rate. These are the concerns of macroeconomics. For microeconomics, we're concerned about the budget of the households, the return of investment of a certain business, or maybe the sales of the business, or the budgeting of the business, the production of this particular industry. So these are the concerns of microeconomics. Now, under microeconomics, may ara pagid mga several sub-branches. And one of those sub-branches is managerial economics. Now, in managerial economics, we focus on demand analysis and forecasting, profit management, and capital management. So basically, the things that we are concerned here in managerial economics are the things that also that are relevant and important for businesses. Okay, now we go to the four economic questions. As I have said, when we talk about economics, it's all about allocating our scarce resources because we have so many needs and wants. So how do we actually allocate our resources? Okay, think when you are trying to allocate your allowance, how do you make how do you allocate it? Like what are your bases when you allocate your allowance? So, di ba la, first of all, you try to think of your priorities, of your needs and your wants. And then out of your needs and your wants, you try to somehow decide like how much do you need for this and for this and for this. Okay? And then you try to make a trade-off. Like what can you give up? Okay, which one should get the bigger portion of your allowance? Okay, like, and then if ever you decide on getting this or buying this, like, how do you get this? Are you going to buy it, or maybe just, produce it on by yourself? And then who is going to benefit from the things that you're buying? So basically, that's how we decide. Like for a household, okay, like what do you produce? What do you buy in your households? With your budget, where will your income go? So you list down for food, for utilities, for the tuition, for insurances, for the mortgage, for transportation, for communication expenses. What do you buy? What to produce? Okay? How much do you allocate for food? How much do you allocate for utilities and for transportation and for education, for insurance? How do you produce it? Like for food, how do you get how do you provide food? Like, are you gonna order it online or are you gonna cook it? Which one will give you more savings probably? How about for education? If you provide a budget for education, so how do you provide it? Like, are you gonna do homeschooling? Homeschooling? Are you gonna enroll your child on a private school or maybe on a public school? For transportation, how are you gonna get there? Are you gonna drive your own car and spend for gasoline, or are you just gonna get you know ride on a jeep or maybe a taxi? Because the how to part may also identify the degree of expense that you have to or amount of money that you have to allocate for each kind of expense or item that you have identified. And then for whom to produce, who will benefit from the food that you will buy? Okay, how many people in your households? Are you also gonna be, allocating food for your parents? Mapapadala ka kwarta for the food also. Okay, for whom to produce? You need to answer these questions because base on for whom to produce mo is like everybody. How are you gonna fit or how are you going to squeeze your budget? Okay, knowing that you want to satisfy everybody. Okay? Now in a nation nga setting, like in the national government, what you produce would refer to like what projects should they focus into: agriculture, education, health. How many to produce? Like how many vaccines? How much will be allocated to agriculture? How much will be allocated to educational projects? How to produce? Like how are they going to, for example, how are they going to produce or get, like if you're going to provide food for the country or like say rice, how are you gonna do it? Are you gonna empower the farmers by subsidizing their agriculture expenses, or are you just going to somehow help importers import more rice from other countries? Okay? Are you going to invest on technology for the country to be able to increase its productivity? The how to again will somehow give you an idea like how much pagid ang gastuhon mo for whom to produce. You have projects as a nation, right? But who will benefit from these projects? Because you know that you have limitations in your resources. Di ba la, when we first rolled out the vaccines, we first decided the government started first with a certain age range, because although aside from the fact that the vaccines were not that available, limited pa lang siya. Ang limited pag nga isa the other item that was limited was actually the budget. Okay, so we cannot produce and provide for everyone. So that's why you need to identify for these projects who will benefit, okay? For whom to produce. But this is managerial economics. So we're concerned with the corporate setting or business setting. What to produce would mean like what products should we provide to the customers, okay? Because you cannot provide all products. You do not have all of the technological know-how, or maybe you don't have all of the resources that you need to produce all products and to provide for everyone, for everybody, for everything that they need. So what you produce, you have to decide on that with your resources. Ano ang i-provide mo ng mga products for people, or maybe for whom what you produce would also mean like are you going to like, you would it will also refer to like uh what branch or ano nga branch yung open mo naman, or where are you gonna open a new branch, or what product line are you gonna offer next. That can also be the meaning of what to produce, and then how many to produce, how much are you gonna be allocating, what will be the budget, or maybe what to produce gali would mean what technology to invest into. So how much are you going to put into that kind of technology, or into that kind of product that you're going to be offering, or into that new branch that you will be building. How to produce is again like how are you going to provide the product? Are you going to create the product on your own? Will it be in-house production, or are you just going to let another factory produce the product and then you're just going to put your brand there? Okay. And then for whom to produce, who will be the buyers, who will be the target market of your product. Again, it's impossible to create a product wherein, unless we're talking about rice or necessities, wherein your target market will be everybody. Usually, okay, your products will have to focus on a certain target market, because you cannot satisfy, or you cannot ensure that your product will be uh, what everybody is looking for. So look for a target market. Okay, so these are the 7 important things to know and understand about economics. The first one is that managerial economics can be defined as the blending, the mixture, the merging of economic theory with business practices so as to ease decision making and future planning by management. So it's basically, again, applying what you know in economics when you make decisions for the business. Managerial economics also assists the managers of a firm in a rational solution of obstacles faced in the firm's activity. So sometimes when you are a manager, you are faced with difficult um, situations, and sometimes you let your subjective um, side get in the way. Okay, but then you're losing the rational side, you're losing your logic. But managerial economics brings you the rational solution when you are faced with those kinds of obstacles. But because ano siya you can really make use of figures and stats or data to back up your decisions. It makes use of economic theory and concepts. It helps in formulating logical managerial decisions. Number three, the key of managerial economics is the microeconomic theory of the firm. It lessens the gap between economics in theory and economics in practice. Managerial economics is science dealing with the effective use of scarce resources. It guides the managers in taking decisions relating to the firm's customers, competitors, suppliers, as well as relating to the internal functioning of a firm. Managerial economics also uses both economic theory as well as econometrics, okay, math, for rational managerial decision making. Econometrics is defined as the use of statistical tools for assessing economic theories by empirically measuring relationship between economic variables. It uses factual data for solution of economic problems. So in our class, you'll be learning how to identify the price that will give the company the maximum profit possible given certain limitations. And that is by using econometrics. Number five, the study of managerial economics helps in enhancement of analytical skills, assist in rational configuration, as well as solution of problems. While microeconomics is the study of decisions made regarding the allocation of resources and prices of goods and services. Macroeconomics is the field of economics that studies the behavior of the economy as a whole, which I have already discussed earlier, the difference between micro and macro. Managerial economics applies microeconomic tools to make decisions for the business. It deals with a firm. Number six, the use of managerial economics is not limited to profit-making firms and organizations. So even if you are a non-profit organization, you can still make use of managerial economics concepts because you are also using resources to make the organization stay afloat. It enables optimum utilization of scarce resources in such organizations as well as helps in achieving the goals in most efficient manner. Managerial economics is of great help in price analysis, production analysis, capital budgeting, risk analysis, and determination of demand. And finally, managerial economics is associated with economic theory, which constitutes theory of firm. The theory of firm states that the primary aim of the firm is to maximize wealth. So managerial economics assumes that when the firm is established or when the business is established, it is there because it wants to maximize its wealth. It wants to maximize its profit. And this will be discussed later. Decision making in managerial economics generally involves establishment of firms' objectives, identification of problems involved in achievement of those objectives, development of various alternative solutions, selection of best alternative, and finally, implementation of the decision. So these are all the important things that you need to know about managerial economics. Now, for the next video, we will be talking about the second part of Module 1, and this will focus on profit maximization as the main goal of a firm. Thank you.